And we go to number 3. A sense of self-worth. Someone mentioned, I think it was Michael, said worthiness, right? I am comfortable with who I am despite my frailties and anecdotal behavior. Some of the strange things I do and so on, I'm just still comfortable with myself. Right? I'm just comfortable with myself. I believe I am worthy, right? I'm worth a lot because of who I am before I've performed. You see, when your self-worth is not strong, guess what happens? You feel like you have to have 100% in your test. Or you have to pass your degree cum laude before you feel worthy as a person. But when you've got a strong sense of self-worth, your behavior, your achievements stem from that. Does that make sense? You know you're great already before you perform. Remember when Jesus was baptized, what happened? The Father said, "This is my beloved Son with whom I'm well pleased." In other words, the Son whom I love and I find pleasure in him. Before Jesus had performed any miracles or done any amazing things, Father God was affirming that I love you and I find pleasure in you. Now, how do you reinforce that? How do I reinforce to my wife that, you know what, I find pleasure in her before she's done any great accomplishments? You see, if you come from a background where everything was about performance, where you had to be first team everything, where you had to have straight A's before your father could say, "Well done, you're a good boy," right? If you come from a background where you come second in class, I mean, if you had parents where if you come second in class, they say, "What's wrong? Why didn't you come first this time?" You know what that reinforces? Lack of worth. My worth is now, I have to be perfect. Now, there are practical things that we can do to reinforce a sense of self-worth. You see, my great performance is not the source of my worth, but rather stems from my sense of worth. I like this point that Nathaniel Brandon made. There is no greater barrier to romantic happiness than the fear that I am undeserving of love and that my destiny is to be hurt. In other words, my destiny in life is that I'm going to be hurt. When someone comes from a background of abuse, that's the mindset. The mindset is, I'm more comfortable and I'm more familiar with being hurt and abused than being loved. So they meet a guy who's a gentleman and they start thinking there must be some catch to this. Maybe the guy's cheating on me or something. This is too good to be true. Have you ever had it in your marriage where everything is going well, it's fine, and then your spouse starts literally looking for issues and problems because they're more accustomed, like what one person said, our minds often have been programmed to more readily accept failure than success. Because we're used to mediocrity. So everything is going nice. You're experiencing marital bliss, but you now have to look for more issues. When I counsel people, the type of things people argue about in marriages is shocking. Have you noticed that some of your biggest fights are over the smallest of things? Huh? It might be a comedy, everything is fine, everything is really great, and then maybe your wife or your husband corrects your English, and he just pushes the button. Hey, it's the middle of the night, man, what does it matter? You know? I'm doing it for the children so that they learn good grammar. But it's already pushing your buttons. And yet you'll become better as a person, especially when the English keeps running away. You'll become better as a person when you just yield. Does that make sense? All right, so what are some esteem builders? Oh, here's another quote. Release your spouse from the prison of performance with a golden key labeled freedom to fail. Isn't that wonderful? John, you're free to fail. Other John, you're free to fail. Tendai, you're free to fail. Other Tendai, you're free to fail. Okay? Where you don't have to keep performing. Isn't that liberating? And those of you who come from perfectionistic backgrounds, very often your spouse can say, oh, let's just correct this, let's just correct that. And he's quite relaxed about it. But on the receiving end, you're hearing the voice of your strict mother beating you up. It's what we call an inner villager. What's an inner villager? It's those inner voices you continuously hear. Someone speaks to you at 2 decibels, you're hearing it at 10. You know those people, you go to them and you say, listen, can we just up our game, please, guys? Let's just stay focused, hey? Because month end is around the corner. 2 weeks later, the guy comes to you and says, remember that day? Yeah, and you were telling us how lazy we were? I didn't even use the word lazy. Where did that come from? And then when you ask more than 2 questions deep, you realize that this guy grew up with parents who continuously said, listen, you must work as hard as your sister. Look what your sister is doing, and you're just playing computer games. You must work as hard as your sister. That's what's in his psyche. Does that make sense? Okay. Freedom to fail. So, practical esteem builders. When you give me continual affirmation, when you're continuously affirming me, when you're consistent in affection even after I've failed. One of the roles of a husband to a wife, of a wife to a husband, is comforting one another. When you speak to me in a manner that does not shame or condescend, when you demonstrate empathy and compassion, when you put the kids down early and prepare a candlelit dinner, when you wear my favorite negligee. When I did some of this research, I started learning new words. Negligee. That's a 90. A nice soft 90. Okay. That's from research, guys, not I didn't think that. When you purchase something small and frivolous for me that I wouldn't buy myself. Can you see what that does? It boosts someone's esteem, doesn't it? Their sense of worth. That, oh, I'm worth this. I'm worth spending a bit of extra money. If you're the kind of spouse who's always trying to control your wife or husband's spending, where if they just go over budget a little bit, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Be very careful of that, because sometimes in the long run it affects their sense of worth. Are you saying I'm not worth enough to have a nice holiday? Are you saying we always have to stay in a 2-star motel? Am I not worthy of more? You're driving a fancy car, lots of repayments each month. But when we go on holiday for our anniversary, you know, there are a couple of people who just had anniversaries. When we go on holiday on an anniversary, you want to go to a 2-star hotel. Are you saying I'm not? Is this what I'm worth to you? The self-worth project. Write a paragraph or letter of positive words to your spouse. Okay? Be specific. Let it be a letter of praise, encouragement, appreciation, or a statement of belief in their dream. Read it to them and then give them. So that should be and then give them. Okay? So read it to them and then give them. Okay? Can we all do that? That's a powerful project to do, isn't it? You might say, this coming week, my focus is going to be on building my spouse's self-worth. Powerful exercise to do.